Christians, there is a very interesting contrast between the disciples of Christ and the Samaritan woman at Jacob's well with whom he held an extensive exchange with. Now, while Christ was having this exchange with the Samaritan woman, the disciples, according to verse 8 of John chapter 4, the disciples were in town to go get food. So while they were out getting food, Jesus is having this exchange with the woman who is convinced now that Christ is the Messiah. And he had even told her so in verse 26 of John chapter 4. So once she was convinced, when the Samaritan woman was convinced of who Jesus was, she left her water pot at the well and took off running to go tell men in her city about what she experienced with Christ. And that comes in verse 29, where she tells them, "Come and see a man who told me all things that I ever did. Could this be the Christ?" So at this time, Christ is alone. But at the same time, the disciples came back. The men who the Samaritan woman went to preach to in her town, they came. And the Samaritan woman came back with them. So what you find here, the disciples, when they came back, they brought food. But the Samaritan woman brought back souls. The disciples brought back food to feed the Creator, the one who fed 4,000 and 5,000 souls. They brought food to him. But she brought souls. She brought souls who would feed on Christ like we're expected to. They brought food to feed the Creator. They didn't think to go bring souls to him. But the Samaritan woman was so excited by what they had heard, all she could do was go out and tell other people and to bring them to Christ. And it's astounding to me, astounding. The disciples, were the Jews who were raised to know everything about the Messiah. The Samaritans, outside of the Pentateuch, they didn't hold anything true in the Bible. And yet, she brings souls.